Am I the a-hole for telling my mother she shouldn't have brought her new baby and pregnancy at a family dinner after my wife miscarried? The title alone might make me sound like a total a-hole, so here is the context. I'm 28 male, is happily married to my wife Sarah, 31 female. We have been together for over 6 years and married for 3 years. My mother Laura, 45, had me pretty early on. She always wanted a big family and has been together with my dad since they were 14. After she had me, she decided to be a stay-at-home mother and in the space of the next 10 years had a total of 7 kids, so I have loads of siblings. She has recently announced that I am to become a brother again. Me and Sarah have been struggling to conceive for the past 3 years. We really would like to have a kid together and considered surrogacy, but my family kinda talked us out, saying we shouldn't trust our child some unknown woman. I have suggested my mother or my sister to become our surrogate if they are that worried, but both of them declined, saying that they can't have any more children and won't be able to carry. My sister has 5 kids. And just to note, I love Sarah regardless if we have a child or not and willing to adopt, but she really wants us to have our own. Me and Sarah have tried a lot of options and recently unfortunately she had another miscarriage and this was really upsetting and depressing for both of us. I have shown my support and my mother, who knew about all of our struggles in recent miscarriage, invited us out for dinner at her house yesterday, which Sarah wanted to attend as she is in very good relationship with my mother. My entire family was there and the dinner was going well. Sarah congratulated my mother on her pregnancy and I thought that will be it. Then my sister announced that she is pregnant again and basically her and my mother ended up having the baby talk, really loudly, where my sister was excited to have another brother and my mother wanted to have another grandchild. That was too much for Sarah, so she got up and left in tears and I followed her shortly after. She had to cut off her family because they kept telling her she is not a woman for not being able to have children and is too old and this gets to her too much.
After we got home, my mother called me and said Sarah behaved herself very rudely and she is expecting an apology as it has ruined the dinner to celebrate life. I got angry and have told her that she was completely out of line and inconsiderate for having the baby talk with my sister when she knew Sarah had another miscarriage and her life celebration. Dinner made things a lot worse for both Sarah and I have also said that if she told us what the dinner was we would not have came. At the end I was called an a-hole for not appreciating another life being born.
AITA? Edit. Just to point out, my mother has told me and Sarah that the dinner was to support her after the miscarriage. In no way or form she mentioned about this being about celebration of life, pregnancy announcement, fertility lottery and babies. If it was the case and we were aware about it we wouldn't have came. Not the a-hole, but reread what you wrote. Your mom and sister talked you out of using a surrogate because you can't trust a stranger, then lied about why they won't be surrogates. It is okay to not want to be a surrogate, but they didn't have to blatantly lie about the reason. Then your mother lies to you to get you over for dinner, telling you the dinner was to supporting your wife, when in fact it was for her and your sister to announce their pregnancies. What are the odds your mother didn't know about your sister's pregnancy before the dinner? They both then spent a significant amount of time talking, congratulating each other and talking about the miracle of babies, as if they have never had this conversation before. Do you see a pattern here? This did not happen by accident. They manipulated you out of pursuing surrogacy and they lied in the worst possible way to manipulate you both to show up for dinner. They knew how much it would hurt. It wasn't a bug, it was a feature. Your mother and sister are knowingly sabotaging your wife and your happiness. Not the a-hole. Let me get this straight, they have shot down options that you and your wife have considered. They declined acting as surrogates because neither could have more children. Then they both spend a dinner that was allegedly planned to help console your wife after a miscarriage, loudly yapping about their own pregnancies, the ones they claimed they couldn't have. Your mom and sister are the a-hole here and I say keep them out of any future family planning discussions entirely. Not the a-hole. After reading your comment where your mother said the dinner was to help Sarah. At first, I was considering that maybe they didn't realize that Sarah was still hurting too much to hear pregnancy news. Because you hadn't specified how long ago the miscarriage was. Not that there's a time limit on grief, just that after a certain point I can excuse someone not realizing it's not okay to talk about it yet. But if they threw this dinner specifically to comfort her, then they knew damn well that she's still hurting. IDK if they were intentionally cruel to her or if they're so oblivious that they didn't realize how wrong it was to bombard her with baby talk. You would know enough about them to make that judgment. But even if they just didn't realize, they're still tush because a reasonable person would have known better. I'm not sure how to say this, but your families are both toxic. Cut them out. After seeing that the dinner was for your wife and then became about the pregnancies, I can see why you'd be upset, absolutely. I say back off from family for a while and be there for each other. Am I the a-hole for calling my ex at 2 a.m. and asking him to come comfort our daughter and asking him to cancel his vacation? Our daughter got sick while on vacation with her dad a few months ago, and now whenever she's upset she wants a specific parent to comfort her, and it's impossible to get her to calm down if you're not the parent she wants. A few nights ago, she woke up at 2 a.m. after having a nightmare and wanted her dad. We're separated and don't live together, so I did try to calm her down myself first, but she was getting more and more distressed. Eventually I caved and called my ex to ask him if he could come over to comfort her. He came over and managed to get her back to sleep, but because she was sleeping on him, he did not want to move in case he woke her up again. He asked me to wake him up by 8 a.m. as he was supposed to be leaving for a vacation with his girlfriend a few hours later. I asked him not to go because I was worried our daughter would want him while he was away. After discussing it, he agreed not to. A few hours after he left, the girlfriend called me as she was upset. I had asked him to come over at 2 a.m. and because he cancelled their vacation at the last minute because of me. She told me I was acting like a jealous ex-wife and accused me of using our daughter to control my ex, which isn't true. Am I the a-hole? You are the a-hole. Appeasing her at all costs is only hurting your daughter. You're not doing what's best for her. You're placating her because it's convenient. If you really want to help her, you need to address this and help her work through it. Use a therapist if need be. Absolutely ridiculous to ask him to put everything on hold because you want to take the convenient way out instead of parenting her. So does that mean you won't be having any vacations either, just in case? Definitely, you are the a-hole. It sounds like she is trying to get back together with him. My husband's ex did this. She asked him to continue staying over at her house after they'd split because their child was used to him being there when she woke up, and it would upset her if he wasn't there. And other various insanity, including not allowing him to be alone with the child, trying to organize dates with him and their child, encouraging him to sleep in her bed. He wasn't allowed to go anywhere too far from home because our child might need comforting. She refused to tell the child or her friends and family that they weren't together anymore and tried to front out this weird, one-sided half relationship for several months. Then he met me, and told her that he'd met someone, and all hell broke loose. Suddenly he was an abusive, alcoholic, junkie who'd been having an affair and would never see his daughter again. 10 years later and she's still trying to start arguments about stuff that happened 10 years ago. It's madness. ETA, I wanted to add this cause it's peak crazy. For about 5 years now, my husband has insisted on email contact only due to her spam calling, sending thousands of texts, calling at 2 a.m., to talk about our child, turning up at our house late at night to talk to him because it's urgent and it can't wait, then has nothing to say, and so on. Since he set the boundary of email contact only, she has been adamant that every single email and text that she has ever received from him was written by me. Like she asks him who wrote the emails whenever she sees him. Every email is addressed to husband's name only. She's called the police numerous times to report me for harassment. She also went through a phase of just letting herself into my house as though it was hers and acting offended when I told her to F right off, and once she came to my house, banged on my front door for 5 minutes, and then when I opened the door she called the police and reported me for harassment. It is literal madness. Am I the a-hole for using a squirt bottle for cats on my nephew? My nephew, Michael, just finished his sophomore year and is 15 years old. Due to circumstances that I would rather not discuss on Reddit, I am Michael's legal guardian at the moment. The only real issue I've had with Michael is the fight to get him out of bed every morning on time for school. I made him set an alarm on his phone, but he just about always would turn it off and then sleep in. I would try putting Ravioli, my cat, on his chest, but Michael would just swat her away. I learned that my sister would oftentimes let Michael lay in until it was 11, then drop him off at school and lie that she had car troubles so it would be an excused late arrival. It took me throwing off his blankets and physically dragging him out of bed by his foot for Michael to get up. I was running late for work one morning, and Michael was refusing to get up again. I didn't have time to drag Michael out of bed and I told him this. Michael was not budging, so I grabbed a squirt bottle that I used to train my cats, filled it in the sink, and then squirted Michael with it until he got up. He got out of bed and ran to the bathroom in under 30 seconds. A huge improvement from 10 minutes of playing tug-of-war with Michael. I started to use the spray bottle every morning until he actually started using his alarm and getting up on time. I and Michael were visiting my cousin, Lucinda, and Michael made a joke like, "I don't want Uncle Shaun to spray me again." Lucinda asked for elaboration, then scolded me on the way home, saying that using the squirt bottle was demeaning to Michael and that I'm treating my nephew like an animal.
I don't see it that way at all.
I simply can't drag him out of bed every morning. If we were both a decade younger, it might have been possible. But Michael's 15 and a big kid at that. Plus, now he's getting up on his own. AITA for using a squirt bottle for cats on Michael. Not the a-hole. Sounds like a pretty humane method of training large animals. I mean nephews. I wouldn't be surprised if this will not only be something he jokes about for years, but also gives him a deeper sense of happiness. Previously, he could sleep in and go to school whenever he felt like it. Original poster refused to accept that, and found a way to make sure his nephew got to school at an appropriate time. Original poster fought so hard because he actually cares. Original poster didn't say, but I'd guess this kid hasn't had someone that cares about his path in life for quite some time. I've heard neglected kids say they wish their parents cared enough to have the kind of rules their friends were complaining about. This young man knows that he has an uncle that truly cares, and was willing to basically wrestle a giant sack of potatoes every morning, just to see him succeed. The reason that young man said his joke, was because he's starting to feel secure. Original poster, I'm sorry for whatever circumstances brought you both to this moment, but he's lucky to have you. Not the a-hole. You were really nice with your method of training. I trained my kids to get up by setting off the Ring camera alarm. Now if I mention the night before that I need them up early, they're typically up or they get the alarm again. When I was a kid, my dad would let the dogs in 50+ pounds to trample my sibling and I if we didn't get up. He also had the singing bass fish that played, "Don't worry, be happy," that he would play while holding it close to our face. I still hate that song and fish 20+ years later, lol. Not the a-hole, it gets the job done. However, I'd make sure to have a talk with him to make sure nothing else is going on there. School issues, bullies, whatever happened that you wouldn't talk about here. Also consider having him checked for ADHD.
If I recall correctly, they've found that people who sleep through alarms and don't want to get up in the morning could possibly have that issue.
Could also be sleep apnea. Just tossing some other ideas out there that may lead to the cause of him staying in bed. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother that he should marry his buddies? My brother Kyle married Mia a week ago. Me and Mia are very close to each other and I was very happy to be a family. Mia was very excited and spent a lot of time planning their wedding. The problem is my brother who, despite his age, 33, still behaves like a small child, especially if his buddies are nearby. Mia knew about this, so she asked him to act more seriously for just this one day. And I do not mean that they have a straight face all the time, just so that they do not throw food. Something like that happened on Mia's birthday. Kyle promised nothing like this would happen. However, of course, he did not keep his promise. During their first dance, Kyle would either shout at his buddies or make silly faces while ignoring Mia all the time. When the cake rolled into the room, he and his friends took a handful of cake and threw it at her, destroying her dress and makeup. Already then I saw that she was close to crying. I wanted to yell at my brother, but Mia stopped me and said that if I wanted to do something for her, I could help her fix her makeup and hair. It is worth mentioning that Mia has practically no contact with her family because most of them are toxic and controlling, so she still needs the help of a psychologist. So he is a very submissive person who is afraid to oppose others, and I knew my brother was taking advantage of it. When me and Mia returned to the room, we noticed that my brother and his friends were gone. So I asked my mother if she knew where they were. She said that they went to the beach because they were bored. Then I couldn't stand it anymore. I went outside and called my brother. We started arguing, and under the influence of emotions I told him not to waste Mia's time and just to marry his buddies. At that point he disconnected and did not speak to me for the next 5 hours. His friend said I overdid it and I should apologize to him. Edit. After reading your answers, he talked to Mia and asked if he still wanted to be with my brother. She said she doesn't really know herself but is afraid of being left alone. I assured her that both me and the rest of the family would support her. Everyone loves me very much. Throughout the time she went with my brother, she helped each of the family. For example, helped to prepare dinners, cleaned and sometimes even looked after the children. Even my mother, for whom Kyle couldn't do anything wrong, is pissed at him. Kyle still believes he didn't do anything wrong and blames Mia for turning his family against him. I suggested that she stay with me in the apartment for a while because he and Mia share their apartment. After some thought, she agreed and soon we are going there to take her things. Not the a-hole.
Wait, I literally just saw this woman on TikTok shared how her new husband promised to be on good behavior, then turned their wedding day into what looks to me a bachelor party. His buddies, this was also by the beach. By the end of the night, dude was partying with his boys in his underwear.
You would not believe how many women were commenting, "What's wrong with him having a little fun on his big day?" Insert eye roll. What your brother did was disrespectful and inconsiderate as child.
What woman wants to have food thrown at her that ruins her makeup on her wedding day?
Not the a-hole.
Well, I have no words, except it's good you were there for Mia.
Honestly, she should get an annulment. It sounds like she won't, because as you describe, she is used to being victimized. But 30-something years physically assaulting and bullying a grown woman on her own wedding day? The groom abandoning her for hours after that?
This is abuse, at least psychological, and she will continue being abused as long as she is with your brother. Your brother is the main issue. He's the husband here, despite the fact that he shouldn't be. He's not mature enough to be in a relationship.
Absolutely not the a-hole. Tell Mia to get an annulment. Remind your brother that his actions created the rift with the family. Go and see until he can grow up.
Please like and subscribe.